Well, I'm glad you cast the magic missile medicinal shy guy because that got it started. So sorry I'm late. Had a little technical difficulty. The one of the cameras wasn't working. It didn't turn on. So I traced the wire back, but I didn't trace it far enough, so I had to call for assistance and, found out that there were several junctions along the way, one of which got a little bit unplugged. In fact, unplugged enough so that it, cut off the power. So what we're doing today is relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. And I'm going to be working on some minifigs. As you might recall, about a week ago, I started another pair out of a set of 8 that were printed on a rosin printer. And here they are, the other 6. What we've got here, though, and I think I'm going to be working on this first because, well, let's just put it this way. The swords are very fragile. So if we look at this pair, they come in pairs. You can see that, right? The camera is now rotated. Left is up. Up is left. Got it. Okay. It gets it out of the face of the painter, but it makes it hard. Anyway, this one has a sword. And this one has the hilt of a sword. And it's a very big sword, so you can see there, based on the scabbard. So if I were to start painting these guys, I wouldn't be able to get very far because the sword is missing. So I was planning to do the old toothpick replacement routine that I've done a couple of times already. And that would have been fairly straightforward, except that these guys have they're like rogues, right? Little stabby blades. Okay. Well, I managed to drop this one this morning and broke off the little stabby blade that she's carrying. So I need to manufacture a dagger blade as well before I can paint that pair, leaving us with just this pair. Plate armor with big long cloaks, because you can't there we go. You have to have a cloak, right? These are probably fairly easy to paint unless I decide I wanted to try to do something fancy with the shield. It's just plate armor, various shades of metallic, some washing, that kind of thing, some brightly colored cloak. They have their swords. This one has a sword with little, as I'm looking at it, little there from the printing process. And so I'm going to try to trim those off without breaking the sword, because I don't want to have to fabricate yet a third weapon. So I was kind of planning to not do these armored warriors, at least not initially, because anyway, this is going well, isn't it? Wait this up. You get to watch me try to trim off these little nubbins here that don't belong on the sword without breaking the sword. So far, I got 1 of 3. Anyway, I didn't really want to paint this pair, because I just didn't feel like doing armor. I was actually kind of planning to do the rogues, because they look kind of interesting. But first, I have to replace the dagger blade. on the one, and if I'm going to be doing that, right, her dagger blade, one like that. Okay, I'm going to get used to this new camera thing one way or the other. Oh yeah, so like that. Fortunately, she's carrying the other one backward. So I was going to fabricate the dagger blade and then sword for this guy. So what you're going to watch me do is scrape and sand down a toothpick. Is left. Never going to remember that. Break this off just a little bit longer than I need, right? So I have a thing I can kind of grab onto, and then try to get the profile of the blade first, which will be pretty easy to do. See, we're almost there. I just need to bring that to a point and thin this down a little bit. You're seeing relaxing toothpick sanding with Dyson Dungeons this morning, at least initially. And then you'll see relaxing, trying to glue it on with Dyson Dungeons shortly after that. But there isn't any way to go ahead and paint these figures if they're missing their weapons. Toothpicks are really soft. They sand down very quickly. So trying to get it look symmetric here. Do side-by-side comparisons. So that yeah, anyway, what can I say? I'm sanding a toothpick, right? So that's not bad. I mean, the blade is maybe a little thick there. Okay, I mean, it probably needs to be in this dimension. Basically, top to bottom, just a little bit smaller. No, I didn't do a flip. I was waiting for you. Why do you have 5 flips up? You know, I only do 3 flips. So I'm going to, keep sanding this a little bit more. I think if it comes out just a little bit large, I don't think that will be a real problem. It's getting it thin without breaking it. That's what happened the last time I did one of these, is I got it just right, and then as I was making it thinner, the wood just gave out. I'll do another comparison here. That's where I'm holding it, is where it will be cut off. Yeah, so I think that's not bad. So what I need to do now is, you can see it's pretty thick, is this needs to be like half as thick. So I need to very carefully, somehow or other, make it thinner without breaking it. And we'll set that down there and hold on to it and see how I can do. So this is the downside of some of these prints, is that they when they come off the printer, some of the detail is really kind of fragile, particularly the sword blades. So that that's what happened here. And I'm just, looking at this, thinking about what colors. This is obviously going to be, it looks like it's almost like plate, but what we might have here is leather armor with a little metal enhancement. No, it's all going to be leather. These people are definitely roguey. Big, long, flowing capes. Let's say the sandpaper out, and I'm looking at this. There are little bumps on the cloak that I could just sand off, because this is the best way to do it. Removing much of the primer. Yeah, anyway, this has been a Monday. Can tell it's a Monday because the camera wasn't working, and it turned out that it got unplugged. That wasn't a surprise. That's one of the first things you check, right? Is it plugged in? Well, I checked it, and it seemed to be plugged in, but there were actually 3 connections along the way, not just the 2 that I checked. So I very carefully checked and rechecked and triple checked the 2 that I knew about. There was a 3rd along the way, and I missed that. So, yeah. There's a lot of wires, we'll put it that way. Anybody who's had a studio of any sort knows, especially if there's computer equipment and microphones and cameras and a computer, a couple of monitors, that kind of thing, that there's a lot of wires, and I missed one. Flip, right? Almost forgot about the flip. I could flip this. That would be fairly dangerous. Oh, why not? Let's do it. Ta-da. Okay, so I was here, and I got the profile of the dagger. It'll be cut off right about there. Okay. Now I need to hold this down with the tweezers and very carefully sand it until it is about half as thick as it is now. I've put these back on in the past. The first time I did, when I used an epoxy, it's a 5-minute epoxy, so you don't have to wait forever for it to set up. But there's such a small attachment point that I ended up having to wait for the epoxy basically to be like almost completely set up before I touch the surfaces to each other. Otherwise, I'd have to be holding this tiny thing in a motionless fashion for 5 minutes, which couldn't happen. So I only ended up having to hold it motionless for 2 minutes. And it kind of held. And then it broke off and I had to do it again. And now it's held until somebody bumps it, maybe. The last one I did, I used contact cement, which is a little bit, it leaves a gloop. It's really thick. But I could put some, on the hilt there, just a tiny dab there and a tiny dab at the base of this thing. And even though it takes a while for it to set up, it sets up right away. As soon as you touch it, it holds, which is what I was going for. This weighs next to nothing, so it didn't droop or anything, which was good. But it doesn't fully harden, I'll call it that. It doesn't really harden for like a day, so you have to be kind of careful with it to not bump into it. In fact, I ended up cementing that one like twice before I kept knocking it off. And this blade is going to be in a spot where it's going to be in the way of other paintings. So actually, what I might end up doing with this one is I might not attach this until near the end of the painting. You can see it's getting thinner. I have to be pretty careful because there isn't very much of it. And I want it to be really quite thin, but at the same time, I have to start over. Now this, you could, instead of a toothpick, one could use plastic, maybe a lump of hardened rosin, a piece of PLA from one of the PLA printers back there, like a support piece or something that you have to break off anyway. But the wood is just really easy to work with. It's very soft and it sands quickly. Not that you can tell it's quick, because this is taking a while. But it's also tiny and hard to work with. I'm trying to get the base of the blade here. Yeah, so the profiles come along. You can see that. The profiles come along pretty well. It's just the thickness is still way too thick. And I'm being hyper cautious in sanding it down, because this is where I've lost them in the past. After I'm done with this, I'm going to set it aside, and because as I've been thinking about it, I really think that this would, I don't want to glue it on and then have to glue it back on again and again and again as I knock it off while I'm painting. So I'm going to put this on near the end of the process, because it goes here, and there's a lot of painting in the cloak underneath and these little bags and stuff. these are kind of like, these are roguish figures. I'm thinking shades of gray and black. I know that sounds kind of monochrome, right? But maybe some really dark blue highlights or something like that. Okay, so that's the profile, and there's the thickness, and it's still kind of thick, but I'm not sure I want to go too much thinner because it's going to start to get really fragile. I'm going to try to contour the blade. Going to give it a sharp, maybe in the edge of it. Kind of what I'm trying to do here now. Pulling where the sandpaper meets the wood. Pretty much what I'm trying to do is make it so it's not square, but that it has like an edge to it. At the same time, not snapping it. With this, looking at this from the top, it's not too bad. The side seems to be coming along. It's a little bit thick on the bottom, but this is a nice solid piece of wood, this particular toothpick. Okay, so what I want to do is not lose this. I'm going to put it in one of the wells here of the palette. Put it in the middle where it's flat. Okay, so this one, no, I'm going to be more like 5 shades of gray. So, because there's only so many. These have much longer swords, okay? And if you look at the hilt here, the scabbard, it's that's a very big sword. So if the point ends up being there, the end of the blade is way back here. And then I want to go a little bit further because I have to have a place to hang on to it. So this is already close to the shape I want. I just need to form a point on it. Smooth it out a little bit. It's really doesn't need to be reduced in size very much. Yeah, so fabricating replacement swords and daggers for the ones that broke off. This one just didn't print. It was like a print failure. The thing here it just ended right there near the hilt. The dagger was more of trying to pick up all 6 of them at once instead of just doing, them one at a cup 2 at a time, and then dropping it on a cement floor. And as a result, snapping it off. So it was like, that was an own goal, a self goal. Trying to just get the profile of the blade here. Yeah, this one, it's kind of in the scabbard, just to get a sense of what it's like. And the yeah, this needs to be cut back. It starts coming to a point quite a ways back. Yeah, more like that. That was quick to do. So anyway, Monday, yeah, we got started late because things were unplugged and I didn't trace the wiring back far enough. I actually got kind of a slow start coming down because I thought, okay, I don't need that much time to set up. But, you know, it's Monday. It's the way sometimes things go. But now it's relaxing. It's relaxing sanding toothpicks with Dyson Dungeons because I haven't started doing any painting at all yet. And the reason for that is because the minifigs that I'm working on had... Yeah, it's supposed to... It is kind of gross and cloudy, but it's not gross and sleety. So there's that to be said for it. But it isn't like I really want to be out and about, kind of out in the spring sunshine here. Although there is supposed to be a little bit of sun later today here in West Michigan, which is unusual any time between October and April. Okay, so what have we got going here? Let's compare the profile of the toothpick to the profile of the scabbard. And it looks like there's a little bit more of a curve in the scabbard than I've got here. So if I look at it, it's kind of curved this way. So if I take the curve back just a little bit here, this sword doesn't have to be very curved compared to some of the others. It's not like a cutlass. How could this thing be now anyway? Yeah, okay. You know. So I think the profile is coming along pretty well here. And then I just need to do the sand it down so that it's thin. This is a much heavier sword than the dagger, so I'm not going to have to thin it down too terribly much. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's a real advantage to having the camera rotated like that, in that you can see the work surface and it's not right in front of my face. The disadvantage is that the directions rotated. It's not 90 degrees really, it's like 270 degrees, which you would think would be the same thing, but it's not. Okay, so the task now is to make this thinner. If you look at this, there's like this little flaw in the wood here on this side, this little notch, so I'm going to sand it down from that side. That will go away. This is a much bigger piece, so it's easier to hold on to. This one I am going to attach because I'm not going to be working on these figures for quite a while. And the sword, you see he's holding it up like this, so it's going to come out like that. So it's not in the way of any painting. It is exposed though, so it's going to be out here. So, you know, there's a good likelihood that somebody like me will keep bumping into it. So we'll see what happens in a week or two when I get around to painting. Probably after I do the rogues, I'll do the barbarians next. I'm just calling them that because why not? You know, big beard, yelling. He's yelling loud. He's got this huge beard, kind of leathery armor. Charging forward. Their companion is also not running quite at speed, but you know, being threatening like that. So I'll probably do those next, and then the ones with the plate armor, those will just wait until later. It's still a ways to go before it's thin enough. Monday. Okay, well, it's starting to get there. Need to take still more often. Then I'll probably do like I did with the dagger, which is try to bevel the edges so it doesn't look so blunt. Getting closer. Take more down on the hilt end of the sword here. Brushing it across like this tends to thin the point of it faster than the back of it. Pretty close. I'm glad I found a sturdy toothpick. You know, see, the thing with these swords is that, you know, when they're holding them, yeah, you can see the edge of it. And the edge can't be too thick. Sand it down from the other side just a little bit. Yeah, so last week I spent a lot of time talking about like 60s cartoons. So one of them was Super Chicken. And the person who plays Nines on our D&D stream did some research on the internet and discovered that I wasn't making it up, that there really was this cartoon Super Chicken to give fair attribution. It was Jay Ward. Jay Ward did Rocky and Bullwinkle, most famous for that, but also was responsible for Mr. Peabody's Improbable History. A lot of these things were featured on the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. They'd have like 1 or 2 5-minute Rocky and Bullwinkle episodes, and in between they'd do these others. So he had Peabody's Improbable History with Peabody and his boy Sherman. Peabody was a dog. We had Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties. The unforgettable characters on the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, like Boris Badenoch and Natasha Fatale and Gidney and Floyd. Gidney and Floyd, the Moon Men. Gidney and Floyd had a scrooch gun. And if they didn't like what you were doing, they would scrooch you. You probably need to look that up. But there was also Super Chick. So something, they all had theme songs. Well, Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties just had music. But something like if you're accosted by a stranger, if you think that you're in danger, if you're sure that you might take a lickin', call on Super Chicken. Anyway, yeah. They who are 9s looked it up and gave me a present. I should introduce that now. This is a real gift given to me. Super Chicken. Super Chicken got his superpowers. I'm not sure that there really were any superpowers. Yes, I can provide supervision to Super Chicken. That was the ongoing joke, of course. If I had any supervision, we wouldn't be in this fix. But yeah, Super Chicken really did exist. It was a Jay Ward production. And I now have one. And you have now experienced it. So much for relaxing, huh? Okay, I think I'm not going to try to make this too terribly much thinner, but what I am going to do is bevel the edges so that it's less square. I'm doing this in a dangerous way by just holding it and rubbing it here, as opposed to putting it down on the block of wood, because I just couldn't hold it that way. Anyway, yeah. So talking about 60s cartoons, it's one of those things, is that a feature or a bug kind of thing? And I'm thinking that it maybe isn't that much of a feature. I'm not sure how much people enjoyed hearing about them. So one of the best ones was Tom Terrific. And I'm trying to remember, I think Tom Terrific was on the Captain Kangaroo show. A lot of these cartoons were just really, really short episodes that came on as part of other shows. But Tom Terrific was the greatest hero ever. You would know that because in his theme song, which he sang about himself, there was, he was kind of an egoist, I guess, you'd have to say, because the theme song that he sang on his own said, "I'm Tom Terrific, the greatest hero ever." But who was to say he wasn't? If I were a ghost pirate bard doing spoken word bardism, Tom Terrific's theme song, which he sang himself, he was the greatest hero ever. Terrific is the name for me because I'm so clever. I'm not sure that follows, other than that it, provides for a rhyme, but his superpower was that he could be what he wants to be. And if you'd like to see, all you have to do is follow him. No Fred. Okay, I guess only main characters. Sidekicks don't get them. But he could be a plane up high, a diesel train go roaring by, a bumblebee or a tree. It's me, he would claim. But when you're in trouble, he's there on the double, from Atlantic to Pacific. They know Tom Terrific. So this is one of those things that happens when you get older, is you can't remember, where you sat down your coffee, and you go wandering through the house, and you finally find it, and it's cold, and you go, but you just drink it anyway because, what the heck. But you can remember the words to a theme song of a cartoon that happened when you got home from second grade. So everybody out there, if you're not in the over 70 demographic, that's what happens. So I'm just checking to see the length here. Looks like it should be cut off. I don't want to make it too long or too short, but I'm trying to match it up. Stay there where my thumbnail is. This needs to be cut off. Tom Terrific was interesting because the animation was all done in black and white. He was essentially a line drawing. And that's all he was, is line drawing. And he wore, his hat was a funnel with a little handle on it. There's the sword blade. Last time I did one of these, I glued it on upside down. I won't do it this time. Anyway, this is going to go here like that. And I'm going to use the contact cement method for this one, because that means I don't have to hold it forever. I just need to get it pretty much need to get it pretty much in line. Yeah, I'm just checking to make sure that the fit, I think that'll work. I mean, you can't see the point of it because I'm holding it, but you can see that that would work pretty well. Yeah, and then I can let this set for the better part of a week or so, because I'm going to be working on the rogue figures with the 5 shades of gray. And then I move, let's just say that I work much more slowly than Nicole. Nicole did this stream for us last week and did this huge, relatively speaking, huge and very, very complicated beholder in 2 streams. And they were even kind of short streams, didn't even go the full time. Whereas I can grab a figure like this, and it'll probably take the pair of them will probably take like 3 streams before I'm done, because I don't know, it's just the way it is. I'm going to give them matching clothes. I'm going to be painting the ins. I think the cloak should probably be darker on the outside than on the inside. And I'm going to give them really dark blue cloaks. Dark blue cloaks and masks. And then their armor will be, like the overshirt will be, and I'm not going to put too many colors on them, I guess. Like the belts will be black. The shirts, and the pants will be like a lighter gray, and then a darker gray for the boots. Yeah. Studded armor here. I don't know, I might try to use like steel or something to just show the little studded armor bits there. But if you've been watching this stream, you know that I'm not a highly skilled painter, or what I'm really not good at compared to like Nicole is doing all the shading. Just not terribly good at that. I'm going to give them really pale skin. I'm going to paint their skin ivory, and then maybe, it's only the hands and the eyes that show. But yeah, I haven't really picked the colors yet. I have a decent color chart. I'll take a look at those and see what I can come up with. Yeah, so what I need now is the contact cement, which might be on this table somewhere. Oh, who is going to... Are you going to paint it on a stream? Who? Are you going to... Would you like to come here in the studio and the painting studio and paint here? Or are you going to paint it in your own... Sorry for being off screen, but... Yeah, there it is. Under 2 layers of things, so it wasn't too bad. So this is contact adhesive, so I've used this in the past and it actually does adhere on contact. So it'll be a little dot going on the hilt and a little dot going on the blade, and then we'll use a pin for that, and I had a pin. We're going to be using a pin like this when I do submarines. Yeah, so you're going to come in. Are you going to stream it live, or are you going to record it and then stream it later? Yeah, you might as well come here, because this is where we've got the 60 different colors of paint, and then sometimes there's actually the color you want. Yeah, I mean, Nicole can, not only can she criticize it, but if you want, she probably could look over your shoulder. I know that people always find that pretty annoying, so that would be a good thing to do. There's contact cement. This is like if you ever did plastic modeling and you use tube cement. So like when I did plastic modeling when I was in grade school, I used tube cement because that's what we had. There might have been liquid cement back then, but it's not what I had. I didn't, for most of the time, I didn't do my own shopping. It's what my aunt would bring home for me or whatever. Anyway, yeah, tube cement. And one of the cool features about the tube cement is that it just, these strings, it was very viscous, and the strings just came out and went everywhere and got in your hands and the model, and I don't know. The liquid cement is much easier to work with. So hopefully these two surfaces have contact cement on them. See the curve. The curve is supposed to go, yeah, that way. I think I've got it on right side up this time. So now I touch the two surfaces together, and it does make a blob. Okay, that maybe I'll try to trim off later, maybe not. But they're supposed to hold on to each other, the two surfaces in there. It actually kind of pretty much is. And there's just enough give in it. Yeah, look at that. See? That doesn't look too bad, does it? It's pretty straight that way. I have to say, I'm going to give this like an A- even. It came out pretty well. The dagger will be a little bit harder to work with because it's so tiny. And it's not lost yet. I haven't lost it. Oh, okay. So, yeah, we haven't put glasses on so I can read this better. Yeah, I mean, doing a live stream, this studio was originally set up to do side-by-side painting. And if you look at some of the really early streams, if they're still on YouTube, I'm not sure if they are. If you look at some of the really early ones, Nicole and I would sit side by side and we would do dungeon tiles. It was all dungeon tiles for the most part. We did some minifigs later. And then what we found is that the two of us would like banter. That's a good word, isn't it? Banter. And didn't get very much conversation on the chat channel. So there's a barbarian playing with a wooden sword. This time literally. So when that's painted, usually I usually have to put 2 coats on the wood because it's a little bit absorbent. When it's painted with a base coat and then a metallic over it, it looks pretty decent. So these are the barbarians that I'll be working on maybe sometime in the middle of next week to get to it. Yeah, Nicole is actually quite an accomplished artist. She sometimes doesn't like to admit it, but really is very good at it if you see the stuff she does. Okay. So how much time have I managed to waste on Monday here without doing any painting on relaxing painting? I'm going to be spending most of tomorrow rearranging all of this so that I can do Submarine Wednesday on Wednesday. This will be the third Submarine Wednesday, and the fourth stream having to do with the submarines. That is moving along very slowly, very slowly. And will continue to move along very slowly. I'm going to be working on painting some very large surfaces, the interior walls of the submarine, and then starting to work on some very, very tiny detail. So I'm not sure I'll be doing any assembling anytime soon on the submarine. But one of the things I'm not sure of is what adhesive I'm going to use. You know, you're supposed to use this model cement, which is actually a weld. It melts the polystyrene and they grab together. And it's very strong. But in order to use it, you know, in order to paint these things, like the torpedoes, they get painted on all their surfaces, and then they sit on these torpedo racks. And one has to scrape off tiny little bits of the paint on both surfaces where they make contact without scraping it in any place that's visible. Okay. In order for it to adhere, otherwise it melts the paint and the paint just runs into each other and it makes a huge mess. I know some modelers use super glue, cyanoacrylic glue, which is, you know, for that kind of thing is really kind of decent. You just put a tiny dot on one surface